Welcome back to the Calculated Risk Podcast. I am Tyler Shoemaker, joined as always by Kelley Ford, and we are here to preview Week 10. We're in double digits already. This season is flying by. Like you always say, Kelley, we got to enjoy them while we got them, because in another month, these things are going to be gone. It's going to be bowl season, and it's sad because then we wait another 9 months for this to come back around. So gonna cherish these while we got them. We have some huge matchups this week. This week's slate, I think, is way better than Week 9 was. So Kelley, let's go ahead and kick it off. I'll let you kick us off here with the big one this weekend, and that's LSU and Alabama.
I didn't even know you were going to let me kick us off, Tyler, but I am pumped about it because, yeah, LSU, Alabama at night, whether it's in Death Valley or Bryant-Denny, this seemingly is always one of the most highly anticipated games of the college football season. This year is no different. It's got a watchability score of 9.8. Reminder, that's on a scale of 0 to 10. Just almost a perfect game. It's the number 1 game of the week. It's the number 7 game of the entire regular season. And I agree with you, Tyler. It does feel, and the data suggests that this Week 10 slate is significantly better than, last week's. And, just down the stretch, it's November. Like these games, these Saturdays, they're all going to be massive now because the implications that we have and rivalry games and all of that. This checks all the boxes. It's pretty simple for Alabama. Win this game and make your travel plans for a trip to Atlanta in early December. The Tide, they need this game to keep their college football playoff hopes alive as well. But for LSU, if they get a win here, things get very interesting in the West. Sets up a scenario in which we could end the season with a 3-way tie among LSU, Alabama, and Ole Miss. But the Rebels still have a trip to Athens on the schedule, so a win for the Tigers in this one would give LSU a critical head-to-head advantage over Alabama that could ultimately be the key to sending LSU to Atlanta for the second consecutive year. My numbers like Alabama in this game by about 2.5. It's a 57% win expectancy for the Crimson Tide. Alabama's currently power rated number 9 in my model. They haven't finished a season ranked that low in the power rating since 2008. That was Nick Saban's second year in Tuscaloosa. I know I've talked about this before, really with regard to Alabama and Georgia in particular, but it holds true. And I feel like people need to be reminded, because when fans especially think about their team, they think, man, this team just isn't as good as what we've been in the past. The Tide don't need to be better than the previous versions of themselves. The Alabama team this year just needs to be better than the teams that are on their schedule in 2023. And my model gives Alabama a 38% chance to finish the regular season 11-1. So that's what the model thinks is, hey, this Alabama team is better than the teams that are on its schedule this year, regardless of if this is one of Nick Saban's best teams or not. Alabama's offense, currently power rated number 20. It's 16 spots worse than where they were in the preseason, but it's 9 spots better, Tyler, than where they were just 5 weeks ago. So they've been a little up and down, but they're trending in the right direction right now. However, as been the case, for the majority of Nick Saban's tenure, it's the defense that's carrying this team. They're ranked number 5 nationally for the 3rd straight week. This unit's going to have to play lights out on Saturday night because this LSU team, they have the best offense that the Tide will face all season by my current numbers. Believe it or not, Tyler, speaking of this LSU team and this offense, my power ratings actually suggest that this year's LSU team in 2023 is better than the 2022 version that beat the Crimson Tide, won the West, and played in Atlanta last year. So LSU's current power rating is 22.0. It's the best that they've had as a team in any year since they finished the 2019 season with a national championship. They had a power rating that year of 35.9. It's among the best all time of college football teams. So we're not on that level, but this could be the best team we've seen in LSU since that year. And that includes the team last year that won the SEC West. It all starts with this Jalen Daniels offensive-led unit here, number 2 nationally, behind only Oregon. Much like this is the best unit that the Alabama defense will face all season, this LSU offense is facing their toughest test in the Alabama defense. This is strength on strength. I'm really excited about it. It should be a phenomenal matchup. It's one of the reasons why this game has such a high watchability score. Both teams were off last week, Tyler, so there's no rest advantage here per usual in this matchup. The difference in this game for me and for the model comes down to 2 things. The LSU defense is number 56. It's the only unit in the game ranked outside the top 20 nationally, and this game is in Tuscaloosa. Alabama players, coaches, fans, they all remember what happened last year in Baton Rouge. Overtime game, 2-point conversion, no less. A great epic win for LSU. The Alabama team remembers that, and I expect that they are going to be prepared and play like they remember what happened to them last year in Death Valley. Bottom line, Alabama minus 2.5, 43% chance that LSU pulls off the upset for the second year in a row against the Tide.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of key points there. One thing I wanted to touch on too, you mentioned you give Alabama a 38% chance to finish 11-1. I checked my numbers quickly. I give them about a 30% chance. So in the same vein there. Alabama's number 13 in my rankings, in my power rankings. LSU is actually number 9. So I have LSU ahead of Alabama in my power ratings right now. Now, in terms of the resumes, I've got Alabama number 7. As we talked about on our previous show, I did some manual shuffling there with Oklahoma and Texas, where they'd all played each other and beat each other. So Alabama number 7 in my resume rankings, whereas LSU's number 20 because they do have the 2 losses. In terms of how these teams match up, LSU offense has been the number 1 unit in the country for me for a couple of weeks now, going against the number 4 defense in the country by my numbers in Alabama. But then the other side of the ball is obviously, you hit on it. What is going to keep Brian Kelly up at night all week is Alabama's offense. While it's not great and certainly not to the level that we've seen it, it's number 27 in the country, going against an LSU defense that I've got number 64 in the country. So that's going to be, to me, that's what this game is going to come down to. How can the Alabama offense just take advantage of the LSU defense all evening long? And if that's going to be the case, Alabama's going to come out of this with a win. And like you said, go ahead and book their travel plans to Atlanta, presumably for another matchup with Georgia. So the line currently sitting Alabama -3 at home with a total of 60. I project this game. I project LSU actually as a 1-point winner here with a total of 58.5. So this game, odds makers, your numbers, my numbers, we all think it's going to be a super tight game. I give LSU a 51% chance to win this. So a true coin flip here. So I'm really looking forward to this one and seeing, the playoff implications here are huge, because if Alabama loses, both these teams, LSU's pretty much already out of the playoff race. Even if they win the SEC, I don't think they're going to get in. So, if LSU wins this, that knocks out another contender, and away we go for the CFP. So definitely looking forward to this one. I think it's going to wrap that one up. I can't wait for Saturday night to, go ahead.
Quick correction for me, Tyler. I think if I'm playing back in my head what I think I said Jalen Daniels. I meant Jaden Daniels, obviously, talking about the LSU quarterback. I might have said Jalen. I don't even know, but I meant Jaden Daniels.
I mess that up all the time.
For LSU. I was just playing it back in my head. I was like, did I say Jalen? I don't even remember. But anyway, yes, Heisman candidate, potentially the front runner, as we've talked about. So we will see. But yeah, it's going to be a great game. I absolutely cannot wait. It's one of those SEC on CBS games, right? We got to enjoy them while they last, because this is the final year for it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I sometimes use Jalen and Jaden interchangeably on accident, and then I'm like, wait, which one plays for which?
This is why I should just not use names. I just shouldn't use names. I just shouldn't do it.
It's a lot easier to read off and remember numbers than it is names, for sure. Moving on to our second marquee matchup of the weekend, and I'm going to kind of ring the alarm here. I think Texas is on upset alert as they host Kansas State here. I'll get us started here. Texas number 8 in my power ratings, Kansas State number 10 in my power ratings. So a top 10 matchup, very, very closely rated teams. I've only got Texas as a 1/10 of a point better in their rating than Kansas State. In terms of the resume, though, Texas number 6 in the resume rankings, Kansas State number 18 for me. These teams are just so, on both sides of the ball. So you look at Texas, their offense is ranked number 17th. And again, no Quinn Ewers this week. So you expect the offense not to be quite as sharp. They did manage to put up 35 points on BYU last week. Take that for what it's worth. But the Texas defense is really the anchor of that team. I've got them number 3 in the country, going against a Kansas State team that's also really balanced. I've got their offense number 12 in the country, but again, anchored by their defense in my numbers at number 7. So we've got 2 top 10 defenses, 2 top 20 offenses. It's going to be a really good game. I'm really excited for this. I give Texas a 54% chance to win. Again, that's not factoring in Quinn Ewers. Someone asked me on Twitter, I would estimate Quinn Ewers is probably worth about 4 or 4.5 points to the spread. The line currently sitting Texas -4 with a total of 50.5. So I project this game Texas -2.5. So, if we're going to say that Ewers is worth 4.5, that would swing it all the way through 0 to making Kansas State a favorite if you wanted to make that adjustment in my numbers. I project this total at 49. So, not a whole lot of value there on the total. But this is huge. Huge Big 12 title implications, huge CFP implications. This is one of those November games that really means a lot to both teams. Both teams have a ton on the line here. So I'm really looking forward to watching this one. What do you have on this one, Kelly?
A lot of the same. I mean, I won't go as far as to talk about upset alerts and all that stuff, even though, I mean, it should be a good game. But yeah, this game, it means a lot to both teams, means a lot to the conference championship race. It's got CFP implications, as you mentioned. This game, it's got a watchability score of 9.7. It's the number 2 game of the week for me, behind only LSU Alabama that we already talked about. Between this game and Bedlam, Tyler, we're going to have a much clearer picture of the Big 12 championship game race after this week. And people have said, I've said that before, and people say, well, not if this and that. I said, well, either way, whether we get the results we expect or we don't, the picture is going to become clearer in terms of the path that these contenders have. I'm not saying it's going to be easier for your team. I'm saying we're going to have a clearer picture after this week. The winner of this game, they're going to jump to approximately a 3 in 4 chance to make it to Arlington, while the loser is going to have somewhere around a 1 in 4 chance. 50% leverage. It's absolutely massive, especially for both teams in a game that this is not like the last game or the second to last game of the regular season. Like we still have some games left. Both teams have an equal leverage in this one of about 50%. This game means a ton, and it's even more so than what the numbers are capturing, because then you're getting in all the tiebreakers and all that stuff, which is going to come into play in more than one of these conference races coming down the line here. So the winner of this game also remains in the CFP picture, as we talked about. The loser, they're going to have a tough time making the field. I mean, if Kansas State loses, they are definitely out. They might already be out already, but Texas, they're very much in it. I have Texas minus 5.5. It's a 65% win expectancy for the Longhorns. However, like you mentioned, Tyler, must be noted that the injury to quarterback Quinn Ewers, it's not explicitly factored into the model's projection here. So we're going to capture that implicitly if he's out for an extended period of time. But for now, we'll keep rolling with what we have, and it's Texas minus 5.5. Model's been pretty dialed in on Texas this year. Longhorns have been between number 6 and number 12 overall every single week. The offense has been between number 8 and number 16 every week except for one. And after beginning the season number 16, the defense has been between number 4 and number 12 ever since. So the team's good. I mean, this Texas team is legit. They could be the best in the Big 12. We'll find out a little bit more about that this weekend for sure in this game, but the power ratings are sold. Texas is a good football team. Kansas State's current power ratings, 19.1. Corresponding ranking for the Wildcats, number 12. Both of those are season best for Kansas State. Much like I talked about LSU, and hey, they had a great year last year. They went to the SEC championship game, and I said maybe the 23 team's even better. My power ratings actually suggest that this Kansas State team in 2023 is actually better than the 2022 team that won the Big 12 championship. Didn't just make the game, they won that game. In fact, the last time, Tyler, Kansas State finished better than number 12 in my power ratings, they were number 6 back in 2012. Current offensive coordinator Colin Klein was playing quarterback for the Wildcats back then. They were one upset loss in Waco away from a spot in the BCS national championship game that year. Colin Klein, of course, made it to New York as a Heisman Trophy finalist. So this could be the best Kansas State team that we've seen, since 2012 or, a decade or so. It's really good in Manhattan right now. The defense, largely what we expected this year. They entered the year number 25. They're currently number 23, but it's the offense that's been performing much better than expected. They were 26 to start the year. They're now number 11. As a result of that offensive improvement, Kansas State's power rating has been upgraded, Tyler, 8.3 points since the preseason. Only SMU, Jacksonville State, and Oregon have experienced a larger in-season upgrade than Kansas State. So it's been a great year for the Wildcats. For as good as a year it's been, though, this Texas team, it's the best offense, the best defense, and the best overall team that the Wildcats will face all season based on my current numbers. So it's going to be a tough one. The model gives the Longhorns the advantage on both sides of the ball, and this game's in Austin. Bottom line, the numbers project Texas minus 5.5, 35% chance that Kansas State ends its 6-game losing skid to the Longhorns and earns its first win in Austin since 2011, Tyler.
Wow. Yeah, and one last thing I want to point out here, Jim Tressel used to always say November is for contenders. And so you want to be playing your best football in November. And heading into November, I mean, Kansas State in their last 2 games has outscored opponents 82-3 against Houston and TCU. Now, Houston and TCU are not world beaters by any means, but they have really turned it on. Kansas State was a team early in the season my numbers really liked, and then they played that terrible game against Oklahoma State, which at the time looked terrible, but now Oklahoma State's kind of come alive, and they're right in the thick of the Big 12 title race. So Kansas State, they had the one slip up in Stillwater, but man, they have really come alive heading into November. So I'm looking forward to seeing that team this weekend and see what Texas has with Malik Murphy in there instead of Quinn Ewers. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Our last marquee game, Kelly, I'll let you do the honors here. We've got USC and Washington, two teams that are kind of wounded right now. I know Washington's undefeated, but man, the last two games, they have not been quite right. I mean, since Washington and Oklahoma, I feel like had these huge wins over Oregon and Texas respectively, and then since then just have not looked very good. And USC, obviously, we know they've not looked good in a while, especially on the defensive side. So I'm curious to hear what your numbers have to say about this one, because this one, I mean, with a loss, in my opinion, I mean, USC is already out of the playoff hunt. I think with a loss, I don't know how Washington gets there, because I think even if they make the Pac-12 championship, I think they're going to lose to Oregon in a rematch. And you just wonder how much fight the Trojans will have if they lose this one. I can see them kind of quitting on the season after this if they lose. But curious to hear what you had to say, Kelly.
That's fair, and I've heard others say the same thing, Tyler. It wouldn't surprise me if that's how it played out. For those wondering, so Tyler sets our lineup here with the games that we're talking about and everything. And he always runs it by me, and it's always great because Tyler knows which games to pick. But I promise, we didn't compare notes here. Tyler, this game, it's got a watchability score of 9.4. It's the number 3 game of the week for me. You have nailed number 1, number 2, number 3, and you nailed them in order in terms of the watchability. So, hey, man, props to you. That's awesome. I couldn't have picked them any better myself. So you're doing a great job in setting the lineup. For me, it's easy to see why this game has a 9.4 watchability score. These two teams are power rated in the top 15. My numbers make it a straight up pick 'em, so very competitive. I actually have the Trojans with a 51% win expectancy at home here. I did not expect that. I also, people ask me all the time, separate KFord ratings the model and Kelley Ford the person. Is there a difference in how you're viewing this game? Yeah, the model gives the slightest of edges to the Trojans here. Kelley Ford the person, taking the numbers out of it, I think Washington probably wins this game. The reason that the Trojans have the advantage here is when home field advantage gets baked in. I think Washington's a better team. I think Washington probably wins this game, but the model, it's been pretty good. I have faith in it. It's saying it's a pick 'em 51% for the Trojans. As the only undefeated team in Pac-12 play, Washington is in the driver's seat for a spot in Las Vegas. My numbers currently assign the Huskies a 77% chance to advance to the title game. A win here improves those chances, Tyler, to a 95% chance. I mean, they're all but in with a win. They're nearly a lock. But a loss, I mean, that brings the Huskies back to this one-loss pack. And my numbers would then assign just a 61% chance to make it. So they'd still look favorably on the Huskies, but certainly not a lock at that point. And now you're equal in the loss column with a bunch of other teams. For USC, a win puts the Trojans at about 50-50 to make it to Las Vegas. A loss would drop the Trojans all the way down to about a 1 in 10 chance. I'll be honest, Tyler, that's a bit shocking for the team that I had as the preseason Pac-12 favorites. I had concerns about the defense. We both did. We talked about that at length. But even with that, I'll speak for myself. I thought it was the best team in the Pac-12, and I've been surprised about how they played here recently. You mentioned it, and I'll get into it now. Despite both teams picking up wins last week, neither team is in great form. USC's lost 2 out of 3, and they only won by 1 last week against Cal. They have a power rating of 15.6. That's a season worst. The offense is now number 3 after they spent much of the year at number 1 on the offensive side of the ball. And the defense has fallen to a new low. They're now number 70 nationally. It's ridiculous at this point, Tyler. I don't have many other words to describe that USC defense. It's just ridiculous. I really don't know. We've talked about it, and nothing changes. If anything, it's gotten worse, as I said. So just not great. For Washington, they've fallen from number 8 to number 13 in the power ratings in the past 2 weeks, following closer than expected wins. So give them credit. They did win. But in the power rating world, it's not just about winning and losing. It's actually not about that at all. It's about how did you play relative to expectations. And Washington has failed to live up to those the past 2 weeks. They're Pac-12 bottom feeders. I mean, Arizona State and Stanford, and those were close games with a Washington team that shouldn't have been close with those teams from the model's perspective. The Oregon win is and was awesome for the Huskies. It's resume builder for sure. Oregon's looking like an amazing team, and Washington beat them at home fair and square. Washington needs to find that gear again, though, and they need to find it soon because after this one, Washington closes with Utah, Oregon State on the road, and Washington State in the Apple Cup. So they better catch their stride again quickly. They don't have any time to – if they play like they have the last 2 weeks in the next 4 weeks, they will not be undefeated, and they probably will lose more than one game. So they've got to figure it out, and I think they can. The offense, it's number 4 nationally for the second consecutive week after spending 1 week at number 1, actually. But it's the defense that's been showing some signs of regression here lately. They currently rank number 32. That's the lowest I've had this unit since week 3, Tyler. Bottom line, both offenses should have the advantage. They're both top 5, but the home field advantage is doing just enough in the model's view to offset USC's defense being the worst unit in this game. I have it as a pick 'em. It's a 51% win expectancy for the Trojans. And to be honest, I don't love that because I think personally that Washington probably gets the win in this game, but we'll roll with the model.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious how this is going to go because this game is as much about the mentality of these teams, particularly USC at this point, because they obviously had goals that they set forth in the preseason. And I don't feel like any of those goals are really attainable at this point, even with a win here. So you just wonder. And I mean, to be honest, their leadership has not been super, not to go all Ryan Day on them, but they just don't seem very tough mentally. I mean, from a leadership standpoint, Lincoln Riley, I mean, they just seem like, well, we didn't do what we wanted to do. So like, whatever. I don't know. I would be concerned if I was a Trojan fan with the demeanor of the head coach and the program at this point. So right now the line currently sitting Washington -3 with a total of 76, which is insane. God. Yeah, I project I'm right in line with Vegas here. I've got Washington -2.9, so basically right at the 3. I project a total at 66, which to be honest is low. I wouldn't play the under here, even though it is a really high total. I think these teams are going to be able to pretty much do what they want offensively. USC has fallen to my number 5 Pac-12 power rated team, while Washington is number 2 behind only Oregon. In terms of the overall power rating, USC is number 22. Washington has dropped to number 15 after the last couple of weeks. But in terms of their resume, the funny thing is when the committee released their rankings on Tuesday night, and I saw USC's number 20, I believe, my initial thought, I didn't have my numbers in front of me, and I was like, oh my God, like that's way too high. And then I looked, and I've got USC with the number 19 resume in the country. So committee was actually right on. I'm actually even higher than them. So what do I know? That's why I always say that the numbers are smarter than I am. That's for sure. Washington, though, has the number 4 resume by my numbers. In terms of how these teams match up on each side of the ball, the USC offense, you mentioned you've got them number 3 now. They're number 2 for me. The defense, are you ready for this? So you had them, what, number 78?
70.
70. Number 112 in the TSI defensive ratings.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
By my numbers.
The thing is, I'm not even going to argue it. I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, that's fair.
By my numbers, they would be expected to give up 32 points to the average FBS team. So that's absurd. I mean, in case you missed my go ahead. Oh no, I wrote an article on VSiN.com a couple of weeks ago talking about historical CFP champions and what their kind of statistical profiles look like in my numbers. And I'm pretty sure, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure the average champion defense had a TSI defensive rating of like 14.5, meaning they'd be expected to give up about 14 or 15 points to the average FBS team. And like I said, USC would be expected to give up 32 right now by my numbers. So just truly awful on defense. Conversely, you've got Washington. They're number 10 in on the offensive side of the ball for me. That's dropped again after the last couple of weeks. They didn't even score an offensive touchdown 2 weeks ago against Arizona State. So their offensive rating has taken a bit of a tumble here. Defensively, I also have them number 32. They'd be expected to give up about 21 to the average FBS team. So even though that's not great, they're still 10 points better on the defensive side than USC is. All that to say, I give Washington a 58% chance to win here, which I feel pretty comfortable with. I think USC might be checked out on the season, but happy to be wrong here.
they lose this one, I think you're right. I could see it definitely happening. We've talked about Lincoln Riley and the defense before. Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Like, at what point do we say, Lincoln, you're doing the same thing and it doesn't work? And it's not an Oklahoma problem. It's not a USC problem. It's a Lincoln Riley. What's going on?
It's an Alex Grinch problem.
What are we doing with our staff? Like, again, yeah, I mean, I'm starting with the head coach. What are we doing with our staff? And what are we doing? I mean, I don't know. Is it scheme? Is it personnel? Like, what is it? Because it's not working. You've got to try something else. The amount of talent that you've had on the offensive side of the ball for years now to not translate into, bigger and better than what you have accomplished, which, to be fair, at Oklahoma was quite a bit. Gosh, it just feels wasteful at a certain point, and it feels like we're wasting, a Caleb Williams-led offense this year.
Yep. I agree. They've absolutely wasted the Caleb Williams era with terrible defenses. And the frustrating thing is, it's one thing. Like, if I'm a fan of USC, because I mean, we've mentioned I'm an Ohio State fan. It's been extremely frustrating to be an Ohio State fan the last couple of years with the offenses that they've had, and then watching the defenses that they're trotting out there. But the difference is, in 2021, Ryan Day made a defensive coordinator change midseason. After week 2, made a defensive coordinator change. And then in the offseason, brought in Jim Knowles for last year. So, like, you could see that they were at least trying to do something different. Not only does Lincoln Riley not do anything different, he comes out and vocally defends Alex Grinch and the defensive hires and says, like, well, you guys have just made up your mind that the defense is bad. Like, he's a good defensive coordinator. Like, it just doubles down on it. And that, to me, that's the concerning thing. It's not that the defense sucks, because it does, but it's that it sucks and he's like defending it as if it doesn't suck. And to me, that's a hopeless endeavor. So I feel for you guys. If you're USC fans, that's a tough place to be in. All right. That's going to do it for our marquee matchups this weekend. Like I said, that's a loaded 3-game slate right there. That's get your popcorn ready for that. Let's hit our rapid fire. One game here at the top of our rapid fire that almost made the marquee matchups. That is an extremely important game. Georgia, Missouri. Georgia is a 16-point favorite with an over/under of 54.5. TSI projects Georgia minus 11. So some pretty good value here on the Tigers by my numbers, with a total of 52.5. So slightly into the under here as well.
I got Georgia minus 14. The Bulldogs have the advantage on both sides of the ball, and they're at home. 84% chance to win the game outright.
Next up, we've got Clemson and Dabo, also Tyler from Spartanburg, hosting Notre Dame. Notre Dame, a 3-point favorite. This line's weird to me. I project Notre Dame minus 11.5. The total currently 45, and I project the total at 52.8. So strong lean on the over, strong lean on Notre Dame here.
Let's share something in a safe space with you, Tyler. Obviously, your name, and I know you live in South Carolina. I know you're not in Spartanburg, but when I heard Tyler from Spartanburg the first time before I heard any of the audio, I was like, wait, Tyler, like, I know a Tyler down there near Spartanburg. No, Tyler from Spartanburg, though. I did.
You see my tweet?
No, I did not. What? What'd you tweet?
I tweeted like the meme of the guy like looking away all nervous, and I was like, when they find out I'm the Tyler that called them.
Yeah.
Because totally. Kelly, I don't know if you know this. I don't think I've told this on the pod, but I know I've tweeted it. My followers are familiar. So I do live in Greenville, South Carolina. I actually played against Dabo Sweeney and his sons and some former Clemson football players in my rec league championship game in the spring of 2021. And I tweeted the other day, like, since my team, we beat them by 40 in the championship. And I was like, since my team beat Dabo's team, Clemson has not been the same. We broke them. So it's
wait,
really,
I want to know more about how did Dabo and his sons get in a rec league with wait, what? Why were they in a rec league?
They play rec basketball in the spring. I've played against his sons quite a few times, but
I was thinking we were playing a football game here, Tyler. My bad.
Oh, no. Sorry. Basketball, rec basketball.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm jokingly taking credit for breaking the Clemson program after we beat them in spring of 2021, because they haven't been the same since.
They have not. You're absolutely right. Hey, Clemson fans, if you're mad about what's going on at Clemson, you can blame Tyler Shoemaker from Greenville, South Carolina, not from Spartanburg. I got Notre Dame -6.5 in this one. It's a 20%, or excuse me, a 68% win expectancy for Notre Dame. I think both defenses have the advantage here. The difference, though, is the Notre Dame offense is number 16. The Clemson offense is currently number 51. So even though this game is down in Clemson, I still think Notre Dame will get the W in this one.
Next up, Bedlam. We mentioned it briefly earlier. Oklahoma currently a 6-point favorite with a total of 61. Again, TSI, a true love affair with Oklahoma at this point. I project Oklahoma -15.5 with a total of 55.5.
Hey, stick with your guns there. I've got Oklahoma -12, so still more than the Vegas line. Not quite as much as yours, Tyler, but 80% chance for Oklahoma to win this game outright. I'm very excited about this game. It's the last Bedlam that we have on the books. I hope we get a very close and competitive game. I hope it's not the 12 or 15 that you're projecting or that I'm projecting, but hey, let's see what happens. I'm going to enjoy it because we don't know when or if we're going to get it back. It should be a good one in Stillwater here with with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and to me, that's kind of a game of two teams that have seemingly been trending opposite directions the last couple of weeks. So very, very curious how that's going to go. Next up, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Line currently Ole Miss -3 with a total of 54. I project Ole Miss -7.8 with a total of 53.9.
I've got Ole Miss -5. It's a 64% win expectancy for the Rebels. I think both defenses have the advantage here, but the fact that the game is in Oxford and the Ole Miss offense is the better of the two offenses is going to be the difference. Really high quality game, though. I mean, again, I've got Ole Miss power rated 14, Texas A&M power rated 17. So there's a lot on the line still for Ole Miss in that SEC West. If they get past Texas A&M here, and if they somehow find a way to knock off Georgia, and LSU's victorious this weekend, I know that's a lot of ifs. I've strung a lot of things together there, but being 7-1, a three-way tie 7-1 is not out of the question in the SEC West. That would certainly be a headache for the committee.
Yeah, I'm very curious what Ole Miss is going to do here down the stretch. They've struggled. I mean, obviously everyone struggles with really good teams, but Ole Miss in particular has tended to beat up on teams that they should beat up on and lose to the really good teams over the last couple of years. So I'm curious what they do down the stretch here. Our last rapid fire game, Oregon hosting Cal. Oregon, a 24.5-point favorite with a total of 59. I project Oregon -25.4 with a total of 58.
Yeah, I've got Oregon -22.5, 94% win expectancy. The Ducks are up to a season best number 3 in the power ratings, the number 2 in relative scoring margin. They have the number 1 offense in the country for the first time all year. The defense is top 20 to go with it. So Oregon's flying right now. I mean, this Duck team is, one of the most dangerous in the whole country, and they're playing like they have their mind set on a CFP. And I'll be honest, if they finish 12-1 as Pac-12 champions, and they keep looking like they are, I don't think the committee will be able to keep them out. So we'll see. I think it's all in Oregon's hands still, even though they do have the head-to-head loss against Washington. They'll have a chance to avenge that if they keep winning.
Yeah, Oregon is a team I would not want to get in front of right now. They're playing as well as anybody in the country. So looking forward to watching them down the stretch. But that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back on our normal schedule next week. We'll be back on Monday with our Week 10 recap to talk about how all this went down, how it affected our power ratings, resume rankings, and to preview what we think the committee might do next week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow Kelley on X at KFord Ratings. Follow me at TShootIndex. For Kelley Ford, I'm Tyler Shoemaker, and that was Calculated Risk.